our journey. So I'll recite the invocation mantras that are found in the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're continuing on with text 5 today, which is the conundrum that Krishna presents about himself, or that is presented about himself, that he is the resolution of all paradoxes. There's different polarities of life or dualities of life. And within the Supreme, we find all of those become reconciled. So Mantra 5 messes with the material mind because the material mind has generally a limitation of taking two opposite concepts and seeing how they're together at the same time. It's either light or it's dark. It can be light and dark at the same time. So the material mind has that difficulty. The spiritual mind is one that can take opposite, contrary concepts and be comfortable with both concepts existing simultaneously. That's the spiritual mind. So in Mantra 5, we bump against the limitations of material intelligence and being encouraged to transcend limited material intelligence to access spiritual intelligence. Spiritual intelligence is that which doesn't have limitations of time and space. In spiritual intelligence is ontologically solid. So with that, we'll begin Mantra 5. I'll recite the verse and then I'll request someone to read. Tadejati tannejati taddure tadvantike tad antarasya sarvasya tad usarvasyasya bahyataha. Okay. So Kishore, would you like to kick us off today? You can read the translation and then a couple of paragraphs and invite the next person.
Translation: The Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. He is far away, but he is very near as well. He is within everything, and yet he is outside of everything. Purport: Here is a description of some of the Supreme Lord's transcendental activities executed by his inconceivable potencies. The contradictions given here prove the inconceivable potencies of the Lord. He walks and he does not walk. Ordinarily, if someone can walk, it is illogical to say he cannot walk. But in reference to God, such a contradiction simply serves to indicate his conceivable power. With our limited fund of knowledge, we cannot accommodate such contradictions, and therefore we conceive of the Lord in terms of our limited powers of understanding. For example, the impersonalist philosophers of the Mayavada school accept only the Lord's impersonal activities and reject his personal feature. But the members of the Bhagavata school, adopting the perfect conception of the Lord, accept his inconceivable potencies and thus understand that he is both personal and impersonal. The Bhagavatas know that without inconceivable potencies, there can be no meaning to the words Supreme Lord. We should not take it for granted that because we cannot see with our eyes, the Lord has no personal existence. Sri Ishopanishad refutes this argument by declaring that the Lord is far away but very near also. The abode of the Lord is beyond the material sky, and we have no means to measure even the material sky. If the material sky extends so far, then what to speak of the spiritual sky, which is altogether beyond it? That the
Mm.
spiritual sky is situated far, far away from the material universe is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 6. But despite the Lord's being so far away, he can at once, within less than a second, descend before us with a speed swifter than that of the mind or wind. He can also run so swiftly that no one can surpass him. This has already been described in the previous mantra. Do you want me to
Thanks.
stop?
No, we can pause there. Yeah, thanks. Okay, what are some main points that we read?
He's faster than speed of light.
Do you remember the Superman phrase? Faster than a speeding bullet, more faster than a locomotive. It's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's Super Krishna, Superman.
Can you elaborate on personal and impersonal nature?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Good question. So there's three features of the Supreme.
Mm,
When we think of the definition of God, many people understand God to be different things. Some say God is energy. Some say God is love. Some say God is you and me. Some say God is actually a person up there in the sky above, with gray beards and things like that. There's very many, many different conceptions of God. The Vedic understanding or the Vedic picture says there's three um, basic features of God. The first feature is known as Brahman. Brahman means a spiritual energy or spiritual light that's all pervading. There's no personality to, just like you might have sunlight that pervades the earth planet. I've been appreciating the sunlight quite a bit the last few days, just observing the beautiful sun that is ignored in one sense, sometimes hated. Like, oh, it's too much brightness, too stark. Some people don't like the sun, but it's the sun that keeps us alive, and it's actually an entity that we offer a lot of gratitude to. At the same time, the sun's rays is the connection between the earth planet and the sun, and those rays that pervade the entire earth planet while supporting the earth planet in itself, the sun rays is impersonal, right? You can't talk to the sun rays. The sun rays don't have feelings. It's just an energy. Similarly, you take that visible energy that we can perceive, sun rays, and you bump it up a few notches, and it becomes spiritual energy and spiritual light and the spiritual power that sustains the entire universe, that sort of the support of the entire universe. That spiritual energy is known as Brahman. Have you heard that word before, Brahman? Yes. So that word Brahman is the impersonal energy of God. But just like when you have sunlight, it indicates the sun. Similarly, when you have Brahman, it indicates the source of Brahman. It comes from a source. That spiritual light or that spiritual energy comes from a source, and that source is a person. It's the effulgence of the body of God. Just like sunlight is the effulgence of the sun, Brahman is the effulgence of Krishna's Swarup, or his body. And that source is the third level of understanding God, called Bhagavan. And that entity, that aspect of the Supreme has personality, has feelings. You can have a conversation with Krishna. And in between, there's another understanding of God known as Paramatma. Paramatma is that Paramatma, the Supreme Soul, who is within the heart of every living being, and is that invisible consciousness that's most proximate to us as a spiritual soul, and that prompts us and guides us and gives us little nudges of wisdom, nudges us towards something and gives nuggets of wisdom that is in the heart that we might perceive. And that is Paramatma. That Paramatma is also a witness to our activities. And that Paramatma permits that the law of karma dishes out to us whatever we experience in terms of good karma and bad karma. So that's the second. First is Brahman, then Paramatma, and the highest understanding of the Supreme is the person, God. So the difference, your question is, what's the difference between impersonal and personal? Impersonal is supreme energy, and personal is the supreme person who has personality and you can have a conversation with. Okay. Any other reflections from the section we just read? Okay. You sure you want to pick the next person?
Linnea, would you like to read?
Sure. Yet when the personality of Godhead comes before us, we neglect him. Such foolish negligence is condemned by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 11, where he says that the foolish deride him, considering him a mortal being. He is not a mortal being, nor does he come before us with a body produced of material nature. There are many so-called scholars who contend that the Lord descends in a body made of matter, just like an ordinary living being. Not knowing his inconceivable power, such foolish men place the Lord on an equal level with ordinary men. Because he is full of inconceivable potencies, God can accept our service through any sort of medium, and he can convert his different potencies according to his own will. Non-believers argue either that the Lord cannot incarnate himself at all, or that if he does, he descends in a form of material energy. These arguments are nullified if we accept the existence of the Lord's inconceivable potencies. Then we will understand that even if the Lord appears before us in the form of material energy, it is quite possible for him to convert this energy into spiritual energy. Since the source of the energies is one and the same, the energies can be utilized according to the will of their source. For example, the Lord can appear in the form of Archa Vigraha, a deity supposedly made of earth, stone, or wood. Deity forms, although engraved from the wood, stone, or other matter, are not idols, as the iconoclasts contend. You want me to keep going?
Go one more.
In our present state of imperfect material existence, we cannot see the Supreme Lord due to imperfect vision. Yet those devotees who want to see him by means of material vision are favored by the Lord, who appears in so-called material form to accept his devotees' service. One should not think that such devotees, who are in the lowest stage of devotional service, are worshipping an idol. They are factually worshipping the Lord, who has agreed to appear before them in an inapproachable way. Nor is the archa form fashioned according to the whims of the worshipper. This form is eternally existent with all paraphernalia. This can be actually felt by a sincere devotee. but not by an atheist.
Thank you. All right, reflections?
Prabhu, can you talk more about the Archa Vigra? I kind of got lost there.
Okay. So I'll tie it to the verse. Mm. The second line says, Tad dure tadavantike. That supreme, if you step back and think about the whole Isha Pisha, is talking about Isha, the Supreme Lord, who owns and controls everything. And we're meant to offer that which is His in His service. And that's perfection of life. So the experience of people in this world is tad dure tadavantike, meaning He is very far, but He's very near as well. He's very far for those that don't have a disposition of loving service unto Him, often known as atheists. And He can be very near to the devotee who has a favorable or sincere disposition or an inclination to maybe surrender. So He becomes very near. So that's what Prabhupada is speaking about here, is that how can He be very near to the devotee? One way, in many ways He's very near. One way He's very near to the devotee is to the Archa Vigraha form. Archa Vigraha Vigraha means form, and Archa is specifically the deity form, made of matter, made of wood, metal, brass, etc. So there's so many deity forms, but they authorize deity forms. In the biblical tradition, one of the commandments is thou shalt not worship graven images. And that comes from the story of um, people worshiping a golden, what is it, a golden lamb, is it?
Those are calf. Those are
Or
golden
is it
calf.
golden calf, golden calf. So because they were worshiping, they just fashioned a calf and they started to worship a calf. And so Prabhupada makes a comment here that nor is the archer form fashioned according to whims of the worshipper. That's a graven image. That's not to be worshipped. At the same time, when there's an authorized form of the Lord as described in the scriptures, and that form is invested with the potency of spiritual presence of the Supreme through an Acharya inviting the Lord to be present in that form, then that Archa Vigraha or that material form is electrified with God's presence and one can feel it. That's what he says here at the end. This can actually be felt by a sincere devotee. There are many, 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 many stories of devotees having personal exchanges with the deity, where the deity, they see the deity cry. They see the deity actually eat, they offer food to the deity eats the food and it's gone, etc., etc. So there's the Archa Vigraha is one way for the sincere soul. They can experience God very near to them. But it's all in the mentality of the worshipper. Prabhupada used to say, if you come towards the deity and think this is stone, then yes, you will see only stone. But if you go in with this conviction that this can be and is Krishna, then you can feel some special reciprocation with the deity form. Does that address your question?
It helps. Thank you.
Did you have more to that or?
No, no, I just wasn't sure like what the meaning was, but I got it now.
One other thing, a nice example was when you think of a mailbox. I can buy any kind of box, but if it's not sort of certified by the post office, it doesn't become a authorized mailbox. Similarly, the deity form, if not authorized by or invited, the Supreme Law is not invited to be in that form, then that form is a useless box. It doesn't, you put your mail in there, it's not going to go anywhere. Similarly, the deity form is to, the Lord is to be invited through the process, through various sacrifice processes, and to invite, there's a whole procedure to invite the date God into the deity form, and then one begins worship from there. Okay, anything else? Okay, Linnea, you want to pick the next person?
Sure. Kristen, would you like to read?
Hare Krishna. Sure. Only my book is slightly different. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he treats his devotee in proportion to the degree of surrender made by the devotee. He reserves the right not to expose himself to anyone and everyone, except those who surrender unto him. Therefore, for the surrendered soul, he is always within reach, whereas for the non-surrendered soul, he is far, far away and cannot be approached. There are two words in the revealed scriptures which are important in this connection: Saguna and Nirguna, with qualities and without qualities. Saguna does not mean that the Lord becomes subject to the laws of material nature when he appears, although he has qualities and appears in the material form. For him, there is no difference between material and spiritual energies, because he is the source of such energies. He is the controller of the different energies, and as such, he cannot at any time be under their influence as we are. The material energy works according to his direction, and therefore he can use the material energy for his purpose, but without ever being influenced by any of the qualities of his energies. Nor for this purpose does he become a formless entity at any time. Ultimately, he is the eternal form, the primeval Lord, and the impersonal representation or Brahman effulgence is the glow of his personal rays, as the sun's rays are the glow of the sun god.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Bhagavad Gita's reference here, ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sateva bhajamiham. That's chapter 4, text 11. That Krishna reciprocates according to the disposition, and how one approaches him, he reciprocates accordingly. So some would like to be a friend of the Supreme, he reciprocates. If one would like to be a lover of the Supreme, he reciprocates. If one approaches him with enmity, he reciprocates equally as well. So that's the nature of Krishna. He reciprocates according to the disposition of heart of the devotee. Okay, any other comments? Okay, we can keep reading. Kusum, you want to pick the next person?
Sure. Now, Shara, would you like to read?
When the child Saint Prahlada Maharaja was in the presence of his atheist father, his father asked him, "Where is your God?" When Prahlada replied that God resides everywhere, the father angrily asked whether his God was within one of the pillars of the palace, and the child said yes. At once the atheist king shattered the pillar in front of him to pieces, and the Lord instantly appeared as Narsimha, the half-man, half-lion incarnation, and killed the atheist king. Thus the Lord is within everything, and he creates everything by his different energies. Through his inconceivable powers, he can appear at any place in order to favor his sincere devotee. Lord Narsimha appeared from within the pillar, not by the order of the atheist king, but by the wish of his devotee Prahlad. An atheist cannot order the Lord to appear, but the Lord will appear anywhere and everywhere to show mercy to his devotee. The Bhagavad Gita 4.8 similarly states that the Lord appears in order to vanquish non-believers and protect believers. Of course, the Lord has sufficient energies and agents who can vanquish atheists, but it pleases him to personally favor a devotee. Therefore, he descends as an incarnation. Actually, he descends only to favor his devotees and not for any other purpose. Should I continue?
Yes.
In the Brahma Samhita 5.35, it is said that Govinda, the primeval Lord, enters everything by his plenary portion. He enters the universe as well as all the atoms of the universe. He is outside in his Virat form, and he is within everything as Antaryami. As Antaryami, he witnesses everything that is going on, and he awards us the results of our actions as karma pala. We ourselves may forget that what we have done in previous lives, but because the Lord witnesses our actions, the results of our actions are always there, and we have to undergo the reactions nonetheless. Shall I
Yeah.
continue?
Sure, let's finish it. Yeah.
The fact is that there is nothing but God within and without. Everything is a manifestation of his different energies, like the heat and light emanating from a fire, and in this way there is a oneness among his diverse energies. Although there is oneness, however, the Lord in his personal form still enjoys unlimitedly all the pleasures enjoyed minutely by the tiny part and parcel living entities.
Thank you. Okay. So this last section that we read is explaining the last line, or last two lines. He's within everything, yet he's outside of everything. Okay. All right, any comments and reflections?
Um, I like this last sentence when it says that, I mean, the last paragraph, that there's oneness in a sense that all the energies come from him, and we can identify with him in that sense. But at the same time, he's still a separate personality that can enjoy his pastimes with his devotees. So there's one difference, which in one sense you can see it's another double talk, right?
Yes. It's oneness and difference simultaneously. So even though the Supreme is in his abode that's different than this abode and is having beautiful loving pastime with his devotees, he's simultaneously, it's not like he's got an out to lunch sign outside his door in the spiritual world. He's simultaneously all pervasive in the material world. In many ways, one of the ways being Antaryami, or the super soul within the hearts of everyone, present in the Archa Vigraha, or present in the deity form, etc. So he's simultaneously outside of everything and within everything. There's a concept of being in the fourth dimension. And if you guys don't have any other specific comment or question, I wanted to share a little video. So you got to put your science hats on, okay? This is a video by a person by the name, who's this guy? Some of you may know him. Let me see if I can share my screen. Hold on. Can you see my screen? Oh, shoot. That didn't work. Sorry. Gotta redo this.
It looked like it was Carl, though.
Yeah. What's his name? Carl what? Carl Sagan.
Sagan, yeah.
All right. I think I got it now. Okay, it's a very interesting. I'll tie it to what we're reading right now. Okay. But just watch it and see if you can understand it. Share my sound.
In discussing the large-scale structure of the cosmos, astronomers sometimes say that space is curved, or that the universe is finite but unbounded. Whatever are they talking about? Let's imagine that we are perfectly flat. I mean, absolutely flat. And that we live, appropriately enough, in a flatland. A land designed and named by Edwin Abbott, a Shakespearean scholar who lived in Victorian England. Everybody in flatland is, of course, exceptionally flat. We have squares, circles, triangles, and we all scurry about, and we can go into our houses and do our flat business. Now, we have width and length, but no height at all. Now, these little cutouts have some little height, but let's ignore that. Let's imagine that these are absolutely flat. That being the case, we know, us flatlanders, about left-right, and we know about forward-back, but we have never heard of up-down. Let us imagine that into flatland, hovering above it, comes a strange three-dimensional creature which, oddly enough, looks like an apple. And the three-dimensional creature sees an attractive, congenial-looking square, watches it enter its house, and decides in a gesture of interdimensional amity to say hello. Hello, says the three-dimensional creature. How are you? I am a visitor from the third dimension. Well, the poor square looks around, his closed house, sees no one there, and what's more, has witnessed a greeting coming from his insides, a voice from within. He surely is getting a little worried about his sanity. The three-dimensional creature is unhappy about being considered a psychological aberration, and so he descends to actually enter Flatland. Now, a three-dimensional creature exists in Flatland only partially. Only a plane, a cross-section through him can be seen. So when the three-dimensional creature first reaches Flatland, it's only the points of contact which can be seen, and we'll represent that by stamping the apple in this ink pad and placing that image in Flatland. And as the apple were to descend through, slither by Flatland, we would progressively see higher and higher slices, which we can represent by cutting the apple. So the square, as time goes on, sees a set of objects mysteriously appear from nowhere and inside a closed room and change their shape dramatically. His only conclusion could be that he's gone bonkers. Well, the apple might be a little annoyed at this conclusion, and so, not such a friendly gesture from dimension to dimension, makes a contact with the square from below and sends our flat creature fluttering and spinning above Flatland. At first, the square has no idea what's happening. He's terribly confused. This is utterly outside his experience. But after a while, he comes to realize that he is seeing inside closed rooms in Flatland. He is looking inside his fellow flat creatures. He is seeing Flatland from a perspective no one has ever seen it before to his knowledge. Getting into another dimension provides as an incidental benefit a kind of X-ray vision. Now our flat creature slowly descends to the surface, and his friends rush up to see him. From their point of view, he has mysteriously appeared from nowhere. He hasn't walked from somewhere else. He's come from some other place. They say, "For heaven's sake, what's happened to you?" And the poor square has to say, "Well, I was in some other mystic dimension called up." And they will pat him on his side and comfort him, or else they'll ask, "Well, show us, where is that third dimension? Point to it." And the poor square will be unable to comply. But maybe more interesting is the other direction in dimensionality. What about the fourth dimension? Now, to approach that, let's consider a cube. We can imagine a cube in the following way. You take a line segment and move it at right angles to itself in equal length. That makes a square. Move that square in equal length at right angles to itself, and you have a cube. Now, this cube, we understand, casts a shadow. And that shadow we recognize. It's, ordinarily drawn in third grade classrooms as two squares with their vertices connected. Now, if we look at the shadow of a three-dimensional object in two dimensions, we see that, in this case, not all the lines appear equal. Not all the angles are right angles. The three-dimensional object has not been perfectly represented in its projection in two dimensions, but that's part of the cost of losing a dimension in the projection. Now, let's take this three-dimensional cube and project it, carry it through a fourth physical dimension. Not that way, not that way, not that way, but at right angles to those three directions. I can't show you what direction that is, but imagine that there is a fourth physical dimension. In that case, we would generate a four-dimensional hypercube, which is also called a tesseract. I cannot show you a tesseract because I and you are trapped in three dimensions. But what I can show you is the shadow in three dimensions of a four-dimensional hypercube or tesseract. This is it. And you can see it's two nested cubes, all the vertices connected by lines, And now the real tesseract in 4 dimensions would have all the lines of equal length and all the angles right angles. That's not what we see here, but that's the penalty of projection. So you see, while we cannot imagine the world of 4 dimensions, we can certainly think about it perfectly well. Now,
All right. What has that got to do with verse 5 of Isopanisad? Okay. Has Yamuna gone bonkers? Uh, Let me show you a. Uh, so this is spirituality in the fourth dimension. There's a word that is referred to Krishna, and I'm highlighting it here, called Turiya. Okay. Where Prahlad, who was talked about in this verse anyway, in this purport that we just read, Prahlad is offering this prayer to Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 9th chapter, text 32, where he says, Turiya is your transcendental status. Okay, I'll skip all of the other things he says. And when Prabhupada is lecturing on this, what does Turiya means the fourth. Literally, if you just translate it in Sanskrit to English, Turiya means the fourth. It says, this is the position, transcendental. How we use this word transcendental, that is explained here. What is transcendental? Turiya, the fourth dimension. Here in this material world, there are 3 dimensions, length, breadth, and height. And spiritual world, beyond that, not within the measurement of length, breadth, and height, that is called Turiya. Do you see the connection a little bit between what Carl Sagan was saying and what Bhagavatam is saying? That Krishna is known as, a God is known as the fourth dimension. Now, do you remember him showing how a third 3-dimensional apple entering a 2-dimensional space seems like it's coming out of nowhere? And the 3-dimensional apple can enter any part of the 2-dimensional space like that. And it's like, whoa. Similarly, what we read is Krishna can enter any point of his creation just like that. Where does it say here? Through his inconceivable powers, he can appear at any place in order to favor his sincere devotee. In the second last paragraph. Just like when Prahlad said, where do you, my dear Lord, where, oh no, when his father was saying, where's your God? Is he in this pillar? Prahlad said, yes, he's in this pillar. His father smashed the pillar, and out comes Nrsimhadev. Whoa. The Supreme Lord appeared right there from the pillar. So to favor his devotee, Krishna can appear anywhere, just like we saw in the explanation given by Carl Sagan. So Krishna can appear anywhere at any time in this universe. Here's some stories where he did that. The first story is Gajendra. He was an elephant who was stuck in a lake because a crocodile chomped on his leg. And in his previous life, Gajendra was actually a very elevated king and would perform meditation for hours on end, days on end. And he got cursed to become an elephant in his next life. And then he got stuck with a crocodile for several years, chomping on his leg. And they were fighting and fighting and fighting. And over time, the elephant was losing energy. And so he then prayed to Krishna. He knew that his strength would not be enough to overcome the crocodile. So he sought surrender and sought shelter from Krishna and started to pray to him. And there on the top right of the image, you see Lord Vishnu appeared from nowhere. Like all of a sudden, he just appeared. And with his chakra, Sudarshan chakra, that weapon, he cut off the head of the crocodile and saved his devotee, the elephant, Gajendra. Here's another story of Draupadi. She was being disrobed in a public assembly, disgraced. She is the wife of Arjuna, the student in the Bhagavad Gita, and his wife, Draupadi, was being disrobed very mercilessly, very despicably. It was a painful scene. And finally, she let go of trying to protect herself, raised her two arms, and called out to Krishna, and Krishna just appeared out of nowhere, giving her unlimited sari. Sari meaning the cloth. And that person on the bottom left, Dushashan, who was trying to pull out her sari and disrobe her, was completely shocked by the unlimited cloth that she was protected with. And here's a story of Maharaj Parikshit, who is the listener in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and a targeted nuclear weapon was sent to the womb of his mother where he was still an embryo. And boom, Krishna just appeared right there in the womb to protect him from that targeted nuclear attack, so to speak. So, like that, Krishna can appear anywhere, anytime to favor his devotees. So, the question is, what about in your life? Can you experience him anywhere or everywhere? That's a little tie-in from Carl Sagan to Bhagavatam. Hopefully, you guys could see the connection and appreciate it.
The analogy was quite great because it kind of weirdly, yeah, it was, yeah. I'm going to show it to my husband because he's a
Yeah,
mathematician.
there you go. He's a
Yes,
scientist, right?
yeah, I really admire. Yes.
Uh, so this is part of a presentation I made for young kids from the ages of 10 to 17 who are it was a camp,
Mm.
1 week camp, and then this my talk was on science and spirituality. So that was the part of my presentation.
It's really nice how it ties.
Yeah. Her husband, by the way, is a PhD in mathematics that he's pursuing right now. So
Mm. Mm.
okay, so I'm aware of time. How about this? I'll split you guys up into groups to do some takeaways, and we'll come back and round out the evening. Okay, please join your groups.
When you were telling the story about the elephant and of course, Draupadi's Chirharan, my daughter had done her Bharatnatyam during her, what is it called? The Arangetram.
Hmm.
Um, she did a piece where she did both these two stories and
Oh,
Prahlad's story with
really?
Narasimha. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think it'll be nice to watch that piece. The two girls who did it, they got a standing ovation for that piece.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So
it was
Bharatnatyam? Your daughter learned
Bharatnatyam.
Bharatnatyam?
She did
Okay,
Bharatnatyam, yeah.
nice.
So that it was really it felt it, you could feel that,
You could
the way.
be like you feel a pastime. You're in the pastime.
No, it just felt very emotional the way both the girls
Mm-hmm.
did it,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, one was like Draupadi, and one was, Dushasan was the one.
Yes,
Yeah, he was the one pulling the
disrobing her.
sari. Hmm?
Yeah,
Yeah,
disrobing her,
yeah,
trying
yep,
to violate her. It's
right. And then I think, I don't remember what my daughter was. Was she the elephant? I think she was the elephant, and the other girl was the alligator, crocodile.
mm,
And don't remember. Oh yeah, she was also she was not Narasimha. She was the father.
Hiranyakashipu.
Yeah, Hiranyakashipu,
Yeah.
because she could do the back bend easily. So
Um, wow.
yeah,
So this
I should share
this
that video sometime.
yeah, I'd love to see it.
Yeah,
Love to see it. Yeah, that pastime of disrobing of Draupadi, I read the detail in the Mahabharat story, and oh, it's
right.
so moving. It's so like it really messes with your heart. Very heart-rending situation. And then how she just like none of her husbands, she had 5 husbands, and each of those husbands was so endowed with strength and valor and charisma and chivalry. She's looking at them with desperation. Well, one of you can help me at this time? And they all, in shame, put their heads down. She had one hand holding on to a sari, just in the other hand. Finally, she's like, Krishna, please help. Madhava, hey Govinda, hey Madhava, please help. She didn't show up until she let go of that second hand, and both hands went up. Hey Govinda, hey Madhava. At that point, Krishna appeared from nowhere and gave her unlimited sari and protected her. And her dedication to the Lord just went up a billion notches from that experience. Very moving pastime. Okay, what are some things that you heard someone say that, or you particularly want to take away? Any takeaways you'd like to share with the big group here?
Prabhu, just to add to what you were talking about Draupadi, like I watched this on TV, like when they had those shows and everything. One thing I remember was Draupadi was complaining to Krishna that why didn't you come pretty soon to save me? And Krishna was like, and this is where it comes to human ego. Like Draupadi had a confidence in herself that I can save myself. Like I can fight against all the people in that room. Um, my husbands would save me. My in-laws would save me. And in last, when after even she fought a lot, like against what they were doing to her, and when nothing worked, and at the end, when she called to Krishna, only then he came and he told her that if you would have called me sooner, I would have come. But you had enough confidence in yourself and everything. And at the end, when you called, that's when he came immediately.
Sometimes we have to go through trouble to learn lessons. Yeah. Anything else? Thank you for sharing that.
Hey, Shiva, you didn't really get to share in our group. Did you want to share anything?
I was having some issues with the online connection here, but I mean, everything you guys said was pretty nice. Yeah. I like that idea of God being smaller than the smallest and bigger than the biggest. For some people, this could be a little bit um, like a little bit of a mental gymnastics, right? Like, how can you understand that? But He's God. He's unlimited. He can do anything. Uh, in one sense, I feel like in Christianity, those concepts, just because we go through a Christian background, and when you learn about these concepts, God being smaller than the smallest and bigger than the biggest, in my personal opinion, I could be wrong, but I feel like just because you brought up in a tradition where you feel like God is great, you feel like, okay, I can accept that. It doesn't sound like something super unbelievable in that kind of sense. But maybe to some people might. I don't know. That's just how I feel.
You're saying that Isopanisad messes with your mind?
No, I'm not saying that. I feel like you might. Some people can maybe argue that how can that be possible, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Depending on the tradition, because some people actually believe. I'm not gonna mention religions or whatever because I don't want to start some kind of political religious conflict. But according to some religions, God does not like bad people. Like, for example, God does not like Hitler or Stalin or any of these guys. And anyway, so for them, understanding that concept of God being smaller than the smallest and bigger than the biggest at the same time might be a little bit of a hard thing
Mm.
to understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Uh, we're at 9:15 my time, so probably bring it to an end today. Thank you all for joining, and we'll hopefully see you next week. Take care. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
I won't join until March 7th. I'm going to India.
Oh, wow.
I'll miss you all. Yeah, we're going to